Okay, so we should live. Had something weird happen with the settings, but that's fine. Hopefully everything is going to work out okay. Let me test this over on YouTube. Yeah, okay, we're good. I don't know why the streaming software decided to change my key. Probably the way I set up the live stream, I guess. That's strange, but I guess thank you so much for being here. Today we're gonna critique your paintings. I have to apologize because, okay, so you sent me tons of them, which is amazing. What's gonna happen is, so I took everything you sent and divided it to two groups because I wanted to have one for this live stream and another because there was so many of them. So I went over person by person, and for everyone who just sent one, I added it for today. And for those who sent a multiple, I chose a few to include today. What ended up happening, and Pat, we're going to hopefully go over yours today too, if I'm not mistaken. What ended up happening was I had to edit edit them side by side, and it just took a long time, so I wasn't able to edit everything. So I edited like 80%. So if you're not this time, you will be either next week or the next time I do this critiques live stream. Don't worry, I have everything. All of your paintings are with me. By the way, a new little foster doggo baby. She's extremely shaky. She's a little pincher. Let me close the door 1 second. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I hope you're doing well. Paulina, hello from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Cool. Pat, hello from New Brunswick, Canada. Oh, a lot of Canadians in the house. John, hope you're doing well too. Ant Farm, hello from Quebec. Victor, yo, new here. I watch your videos as an amateur. This activity, yeah, well, most of us are amateurs, but it takes a long time to become more than that. Doesn't have to take long, but you know, sometimes, usually. Victor, hey, oh, sorry, yeah, we're just read that. Lisa, hello. Lisa, I'm not sure if you're the same Lisa who sent me paintings, but we will look at some of them. So Lisa's paintings. Joshua, hello. Deborah, hello. Ekaterina. Kuntal, we have your paintings as well. Kuntal, you're the only one who already prepared it for me side by side, so thank you so much for that. That made things a lot easier. Paratrooper, hi everyone from Netherlands. Lisa, how are you from California? Yanza Art. Ruth doesn't like visitors, but they'll learn to live. Victor, Romania here. Cool. My dad's from Romania. Was born there actually. So I think we're gonna get started with the paintings. Let me just figure out, because I think I removed the chat box. So let's bring it back. There we go. So yeah, I think we can just get started. There's a lot to go over, and I don't know how much in the mood for detailed critique I am. So this might just devolve into we're just looking at paintings. So you'll forgive me, especially because there were so many really awesome submissions, I have to admit. So yeah, really good stuff, and I actually feel like people are improving from one session to the next. Some of you have been emailing me after the previous one saying it was very helpful, and the new paintings you sent were much better. So it's pretty insane to see. Hey Danielle from Kansas City, Missouri. Hey Cami from Paris, France. Haven't sent anything yet. No worries. Send in the future. Gite, hello from Denmark. Kopiek. Hey from Poland. Petty, this is my first time to see you live. Thank you so much. I've watched many videos. Thank you. It's amazing how people have been watching for a while, but sometimes it takes a bit to catch me live. Victor, I know a bit of Romanian. Very little. Very few words, not more than that, unfortunately. Salute frat. Oh yeah, I understand that, but based on other languages, yeah. Thank you. Kuntal, I thought it would be easy for you. Yeah, it was. It was really easy. Thank you. My name, hello from Malaysia, and Nancy, good morning from Akron, Ohio. Okay, so we'll get started with Richard's painting. I love this. I can see. It's so interesting. I don't remember if we discussed this, Richard, and hopefully you're here. I haven't seen you yet, but I will see you. Oh, Lisa, happy birthday. That's amazing. We'll celebrate your birthday. We have 3 Lisa consecutively in the chat. That's funny. Yeah, definitely nice mood in this one. I can see then again, Richard. I don't remember if we talked about this, but I can see the Andy Evenson in it. Just the way you do the colors and the way you edit. It's a huge compliment because there's a lot of organization to the shapes, a lot of interesting things. I'm gonna give you a very kind of light-hearted, hey Pat, light-hearted critique here. One thing I would have in mind is because you seem to have, some basic control over the technique, and of course, there are things to improve in terms of, and I have my trusty pen here, how you do your shapes and how you, yeah. So how, okay, there we go. How you blend and how you let things go, technique. But that's boring because I think you're at a spot where you're doing pretty well. Glove up. What I would actually focus on is more of the overall story you want to tell. What is it that you want to attract our attention to? To me, very interesting. These houses and the little boat here take up pretty much an equal amount of attention. So one thing to think about is perhaps you can move this aside, maybe get it even closer. And this is actually a correction that's quite easy to do. You basically draw it in a different spot. I do this all the time with scenes. You don't have to be a genius in inventing things to do this, but maybe move it aside so that you have this kind of a lead in to the houses and they don't fall on the same line. Okay, this isn't a must. He's sleeping. Okay, this isn't a must, but just a suggestion to have in mind. Maybe it would benefit the composition, help our eyes travel through the painting. Or what you could do is play around a bit with, and you don't have to do any of this. Again, it's just a recommendation, but you could play around with the how much focus you give each one of them. So for example, just by adding this red kind of stripe, like a lot of people do, you immediately bring more attention to the boat. Now, generally speaking, I do like when the focal points are spread out randomly, so they all kind of fall on that same line, which is something I would change. The building blocks are there. They work well. You're doing a good job with them and with the techniques. It's pretty much about how you put everything together, which is composition, right? I love, for example, how this is great, by the way. I want to show you something that everyone can learn from. So the way you'll notice how this wash for this mountain, right, where you painted and then blended this area with some water. Notice how it ends here. So, and this is something I want to teach more of in the future. You don't have to continue every shape more and more and more and glaze. Like the trees here at the front don't have to be glazed over a transparent mountain. The mountain can just stop here and then the trees can really shine as a green. So you don't want to paint everything in every layer. Some layers you'd want to maybe paint the shapes separate as you see them, right? I love that this mountain ridge stopping here brings more light and purity to the green of the layer in the front, right? So just something to have in mind. You don't have to cover large areas with every shape and glaze over. You can just stop where two shapes overlap. You just stop there and paint the next shape. And it's a big part of painting a la prima too, because you don't have time for everything to dry, so you're just painting in sections, right? So really, really cool. Good job, Richard. And by the way, I may have done some, may have caused a bit of a mess with the file names. So if I say someone's painting and it's someone else's, correct me and my apologies, okay? Now let me just check something real quick and we'll continue. Sorry about that. By the way, I posted my manga, so if anyone wants to, I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put a link in the chat because some people want to read it. Sorry for taking a break for this, but that's life. So if anyone wants to read the manga, you can find it here. Do it after the stream. But yeah, very excited for it to finally be. So let's continue. On to the next one. Oh, and by the way, yes, wanted to see some of the comments. Amy, Yeah, this is where I learned from everything, from doing everything wrong. That's how it works. Hey, Booby Check from Montenegro. Joshua, it's funny you say I'm related to Sanders Waterford because that is the paper I paint with a lot. Yeah, it's my favorite. Um, and from Akron, Ohio. That's cool. I don't remember. Did I visit Akron or I visited somewhere else? I can't remember. Hey Hank, how are you doing? Pat from Willoughby. I love that Willoughby. I love when there's a lot of letters that aren't pronounced. I don't know why I like that. It's incredibly annoying to learn a language like that, but I like it. So I guess, yeah. And next up we have Alfie. Now Alfie, great submissions. I believe this is the second time you send paintings in, maybe the third. I'm not sure. But really, really good job. You did not send me the reference photos, or I might have missed them, and I apologize. But I haven't seen them in this email at least. But Alfie's doing some nice stuff. Oh yeah, it's definitely the second time. I remember your paintings from the first time. Alfie, you're onto something. So what I really like, and of course I don't have the reference with me, but you have a very bold use of colors. It actually reminds me a bit of the way, was it Sargent's watercolors? Yeah, just using this pure, strong blue and quinacridone kind of orange or a burnt sienna, right? This use of strong, warm, and cools one next to another. And it seems like you have a very good understanding of values. So for example, this window here is great. Like this tinted glass, vitrage, however you call that. That's really nice to see such a light value. Very gentle attention to details. People tend to do these way too dark. You know, people are scared to go dark, but they are also sometimes they don't know how to do a light touch, a very light touch. This really feels like light pouring into the room through this tinted glass, which I really, really like. So, and this is pretty much for both of them. Very nice use of colors. This makes me want to use some pure blue in my paintings. It just looks so fun. And your drawings are pretty accurate as well. I see a lot of focus on shapes, which is, in my opinion, a great thing. I think it leads to a good, coherent, clear, fresh-looking painting. And what I mean by that is you can really see this entire thing as one big shadow, right? It's very easy to make the distinction between the lights and the darks here. And that's something that I like and appreciate, right? Even these stripes of light, they look so good, you know? So really good, interesting colors. Something that I really want to work on with my art is the colors. I feel like the colors could be improved significantly. I've been feeling that for a while. Unless I really focus and take my time, the colors could usually be better. So yeah, just throwing it out there. And what was I just wanted to leave a note for myself because I will forget. Sorry about that. It's actually quite important. There we go. So, great job, Alfie. Really, really like these. Both of them. Clear shapes, again, clear shapes, right? You can tell light, shadow. There's no zigzagging, being too scared to commit, right? So that's really good. Yeah, that's so sunlit, Rajshri. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? When you have a solid kind of structure for light and shadow, things tend to look either very strong sunlit or it's very clear what the light and shadow conditions are. So it's really, really fun. Lisa, wow, the figure looked through the lovely architecture. Yep. Great job. So in any case, let's move on to Andrew. So Andrew sent this only one painting. Made it faster to edit, stitch them together side by side. So first off, I have to commend the creativity, you know, just going crazy there with the details and colors. You know what's interesting? I recognize a hint of good color understanding. The colors are a mess, but in a good way. And there's a lot of weird effects going on here that I'm not sure how you achieved, maybe by pouring and then lifting, scratching, and it's really cool. To me, it looks like you really divided the green here. So you have this green, and you kind of broke it down into the lighter green and the red that's used to neutralize it, which is a good thing. I like that a lot. I used to do that with a lot of my paintings. Now, one thing that bugs me just a bit is in the original one, and that goes to composition as well. In the original one, this wall is close to being probably the lightest thing in this scene. Now, of course, there's some artistic liberties, but I feel like the message may be better conveyed if you would kept at least that being the lightest. So the way to do this in theory is to just darken everything that's a little too light to be this, right? It's still very subjective, and you get to decide, right, if that's the impression you're after. But why does it change my secondary color? I don't get that. So if I'll add another layer, make it a little environment. So just imagine like everything, and not everything has to be darker, but I just want to show you the organization it creates, okay? Just a bit of organization for this being the almost lightest part, right? And of course, it's not 100% because you have a lot of well-lit areas here. Like these areas right down the middle, but they're still quite dark. I think, maybe I'm confusing things. Let's look at this black and white for a second. Yeah, no, that's pretty close to being the lightest. Now, this is very, again, gentle criticism, because I kind of like the going crazy and going wild and exploring a lot of techniques. That's how you grow, actually. I think maybe there's a bit of salt here or a bunch of stuff added. So I actually encourage that. Don't lose that aspect, because I don't see, whenever I see a painting and I'm like, okay, not too many people paint like this, I like it, because it means it's more unique. And you can see so many paintings of people that you can tell that they learned very strictly under someone, and it looks almost identical to the work that other person. Sometimes there's a hint of it, like the good example is Richard's painting from earlier. There's a hint of Andy Evenson, but it doesn't look exactly the same. But sometimes it can look exactly like a copycat kind of thing. So I like and encourage whenever someone paints like this. My nose is tickly. I have a hair that tickles me. Sorry, I have to scratch it. Maybe I'll make myself disappear. Sorry about that. Bye bye. And I'm back. So yeah, let's see what's going on again in the chat here. Erica, I believe there should be a few paintings of you, maybe one. If it's not in this one, it's in the next one. But I got your email. There's no reference photo. That'd be a sure sell. It's funny. Yeah. Reference photos aren't a must. I just like them. Hey, Sebastian, stepping in late. Hello, everyone, from the French guy living in Spain. I remember you. It's funny how that explanation reminded me. Can you explain how to deepen the value of a bright color without disturbing the hue? Well, you won't change the hue because the hue stays the same. So, for example, everything, I'll have to show some more of the, Photoshop. Let me do this. So, a bit more. Sorry that the window's a little crooked. I want to show you. So this, so hopefully you can see, right, this area where I swatch colors. So this is hue, right? Look at this square here, and it changes the hue every time I move it, okay? So the hue is set right now to blue, to this particular blue, right? There are other blues, but let's decide on a blue. Everything here, if I'm not mistaken, everything here is that same hue. When you darken it, so when you go from this to this, it's still the same hue. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. But correct me if I am. But in any case, the way you darken it with watercolor is either by adding more of that paint, less water, more paint, or by using your other colors to darken it, but then you have to be careful, right? So let's say you're using a 3-color combination like I always do, a red, a yellow, and a green. The way you darken, let's say, a red is by adding a bit more blue, a bit more yellow, and a bit more red to balance it out. So you're always darkening by using these three colors, adding more of everything. Okay. Sometimes you'll introduce a different color. So if you use something like neutral tint, that is going to affect the hue. This is where knowing your colors can help. So for example, if you know what's in neutral tint, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit of quinacridone rose there. I believe there's a bit of blue. I'm not sure which one. If you know the contents of that, you know that when you add it to your blue, you add more red and more blue. So you add kind of a purple. So then you add a bit of yellow in addition to neutral tint to neutralize it back to the blue you had before. Okay? Now, it's a little trickier than that. One thing you can do is use a software like this and practice. So first you get this, just paint a pure clean blue, and then do this, but then go to your paper and try to mix this without seeing what it looks like, right? So take this blue here, this one, try and darken it while preserving the same hue as color. So try and paint it while preserving the hue, and then go ahead and choose the darker version here, paint it, and see how close you are. Okay? So just a suggestion, just one way of doing it. It is a challenge. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm very challenged by it still. So yeah. Gowir Shankar. Is it always necessary to wet the paper first? No, definitely not. That's a matter of choice and how you want the result to look like. So let's continue to Pristine B. B, so there should be an A if I'm not mistaken. Okay, no, we're good. So you did not send me a reference photo, so it's actually going to be a little hard. But we'll give it a go. Let's see. So this is the first one. This is the second one. Yeah. So it's so funny because these are such different techniques from what I'm used to. So I'll again tread carefully. So one thing that sticks out to me, I think the drawing could be a little more accurate, especially with the second one, this one. But oh, sorry, I'm gonna fix my window. Forgot here, this there. One thing that sticks out to me is in terms of colors, once again, it seems like everything is equally saturated. So again, you get a very strong kind of a blue and strong kind of a green and strong kind of a brown, right? And then you have this kind of a neutral kind of grayish, right, for the snow. I think this is the result of not being deliberate enough with your color choices. So a couple of things. Generally speaking, a few paths you can take. One, work black and white to focus on the more fundamentals, like the values, if that's what you aim for. Or you can work on your colors and how well you use them. Now, there's nothing wrong with this color combination. I just find that to balance it out better, maybe I would change the saturation of some of these colors. So maybe I'll use like a more neutral version of this blue. And you see how it just makes it a little more mellow. This is quite desaturated, actually, so that's a nice choice. But the more you go towards the gray, the better the colors are going to work together. And then you can choose for one of them, maybe make it a little stronger to pop out a bit more, okay? So just kind of my thoughts. Now, again, it's very hard without seeing the reference photo, so I'll apologize in advance. Same goes for here, but here you have a bit of a nicer thing going with the colors. I actually like them a lot. There's a lot of nuance in them. So like this tree, just within that, there's a lot of cool, there's a lot of warm, very nice. And both of them are riding the gray area, right? So they're both close to being neutral, but not fully. And then the green, not necessarily a lot of sense in green right next to snow, but I don't know. Correct me if I'm mistaken. I think this green is a little too, again, too strong. I'd kind of go more towards the dark gray. And that would make maybe more sense together with the rest of the colors. Just, you know, colors. Speaking about colors. Now, in terms of drawing, a bit of it can be improved. So you have a tendency, and I have that too, as long as the picture was taken upright, and it looks like it was, to do straight vertical lines as diagonals. And that's something I don't talk nearly enough about. But what happens is people's lines tend to lean a bit, right? When they should be perpendicular to the edge of the paper, right? So something like this, rather than this. So you see some of that here with pretty much all of the lines. That's very common. You got the trees right, so that's good. Now, when I see this kind of a roof, okay, and this again goes to being a little more deliberate with your decisions. To me, it looks like you attempted for it to be angular, but kind of forgot maybe. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but it would look really nice if you do this kind of an angle and then contrast it with a bit of a curve, right? This is where learning gestures can help a lot. So just throwing it out there, gestures can help make your shapes a little more graceful. So something to look into maybe. It's a very contained topic. You can learn that and then apply it to whatever you create, basically. So maybe check it out. And yeah, definitely you don't have to paint every single leaf. Must paint. How have you been? Hopefully everything is well with you. And thank you for clicking the bell. Much appreciated. Okie doke. Oh, how do I know you're live? I'm posting on Instagram usually a day or two before. Okay, let's move on to, and let's see if there's anything else that's important to discuss. I think that was all. Yeah, I like this a lot. I like that the sky has, again, it's not too strong. It's very gentle colors. I really appreciate that, you know, all of these nice combinations of, that's a beautiful, just this spot here. I really like the colors and the way they work. Good job on that. So let me continue. And sorry for drawing all over your paintings, everyone. I'm going to close some files so that I can see what I'm doing. And if you come in late and I already critiqued your work, you'll be able to see it later. Okay. Next up, we have Kuntal. Or let's go alpha. No, let's do Kuntal and then we'll go back alphabetically. So you sent me quite a few of them. Let me show some of them first and then we'll talk about them. Hey Banani, how are you doing? It has been a while. Thank you for being here. Okay, so okay, must paint. Yeah, if you click the bell, you're either getting an email and it goes to the promotional folder or forum folder sometimes. On YouTube, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's very hit or miss sometimes. So yeah, okay. So Kuntal, here's one. Here's another interesting one. I believe I left 2 out, or maybe not. I'm not sure. 1 out. Here's another one that I believe I painted this village a few times. Looks familiar. Not this scene though. Not this different one. So excellent job. This is a good example of what we just talked about, colors. So one way to get a color harmony is to use all colors, which is interesting. So just by doing, and you can see this motif in a lot of your paintings, right? So you have purple and blue and red and yellow and some kind of a green here, and pretty much everything, right? That's a great way to create harmony. It's almost like a chromatic painting. So almost like playing a chromatic scale on the piano where you use each and every note. By using each and every color, and hopefully that analogy makes sense to you musicians out there, is another great way for harmony. Now I want to show you something regarding these colors. None of them go too much in the extreme here, which I appreciate as well. Because if you were to use the very extreme, nothing wrong with that. Again, you can do pretty much whatever you want. But I find that there's a nice nuance to using a variety of colors that are, you know, a little more neutral and a little more nuanced. Once again, maybe letting one color be more punchy, like this yellow is quite bright. Yeah. Now, I do wonder if your goal is... I don't think your goal is to hit the colors you see more accurately, right? But if you... I think it would be an interesting experiment. Not as a chore, not as a task. Try and see if you can mix the colors accurately. I think you should be able to. The real life colors are much more boring, right? So you see all of these, and I'm not saying that it's better to paint with these boring colors. I actually like yours better. I think it would be interesting to see what would turn out, what would come out of the effort of trying to match these colors. Just a bit. You don't even have to do the full scene. Maybe just choose a snippet, like an area, and try and match the colors there. I'm curious to see what will happen. Sometimes, when we improve a skill we don't even care about that much, it makes the skill we do care about much better. So you'll find suddenly your color harmonies are more interesting, you know? One more thing to have in mind, your colors are very nicely connected. They're all very purple. I would explore maybe taking the same neutral kind of color and maybe injecting it with a bit, maybe more towards the clean yellow. With a bit of warmth, just to see what it looks like to have shadows that are both warm and cool. You know, just something to test out. But I really, really like this. I think the critique I gave you is pretty much true for all the paintings. This painting feels like it has a really good finish to it. It's like, it's very well thought out, very careful, and it looks really good. I'd love to see you take this approach style to like its ultimate conclusion and see what comes out of it, really. I don't have too much to say. I think it's really, really nice. It's just small touches that will improve it with time. This is one of my favorites of the three. And the first one is great too. I actually used it in the thumbnail. You probably noticed. I think out of all the three, the one that has like the best finish, you know, that it's like, it's impressive. The care that was put into the whole thing together with the composition, with everything. It's what I would call a perfect painting, right? It's this one for sure. It's perfect because I love the composition. It's very interesting. I love the colors. I love the shapes. The drawing is fairly accurate. You know, all of it works. You see this nice little blue here? I would even bring some of it to the front here. Make it pop a little. Maybe keep the back a little, not as dark, like this, you know? And then you bring in more attention to the foreground. Just a quick suggestion. But again, I'm very hesitant to give any concrete suggestions because this one's really, really good. So good job. And it seems like people agree with me. These are really, really great. So keep it up. Let's do Pristine G. So you sent me one painting and a reference. I like it a lot. It's pretty much the same in terms of all the colors in real life, again, are quite boring when you think about it. So again, let's sample a few colors. It's interesting to see just how important and impactful this is. So this color, that color, like how big of a spread of different colors will we get here? See, it's all so contained. Now, this is a big part of what makes things look realistic. The very narrow selection of colors. Now, when we look here, we have much more of this orange, and every orange pretty much is brighter, and we have this bright green. The sky is actually quite close, maybe a little brighter. And then you broke down these shadows into purples, dark light purples, and a bit of oranges. So on the one hand, the way you painted it is very naive, in a good way. It's like, these are shadows, so I'm going to paint them purple. And these are sky, so I'm going to use the strongest blue I have. But there is something very nice in that naivete that I enjoy quite a lot. Now I'm thinking, like, what concrete, because I really want to be careful with my advice. I really like this scene. One thing you can think about is, again, it goes a bit to the composition idea, how everything communicates together, and whether you want to add something to your message. So, for example, when you look at a reference photo, and that's something, you know, real life just does better because it's real life. When you look at this shadow here, it's all pretty much connected. There's a unity to it. It's very nice. If you could borrow that and even use pretty much the same colors you have, just have a bit of better organization in shadows, it makes the message a little clearer and still maintain all of the colorfulness you have and everything like that. I honestly wouldn't even critique like this, the way you did the trees, because it's so hard to paint foliage as one singular shape. It's just really hard. I know that because people keep telling me that I experienced this myself. It's very hard. So I actually like the way you interpreted it. And I would probably interpret it pretty similarly. Probably. When you look at this mess to the right here, it's like, what is that? Like, what do you do with all of that, right? How do you paint everything without having it look overworked? These are big challenges. And I think you handled this challenge really well. And I think the way you broke down the colors is interesting too. It actually makes a lot of sense. The way you broke this into pretty much a purple and then maybe a bit of yellows here and there. The way you broke down the colors of the entire foliage. One pet peeve of mine is greens. I do like when the greens that are in the distance are a little more muted. So you have a very strong green here. Try grabbing it. There we go. And then you have that same pretty close green in places, right? Not everything, but all throughout there. You can find iterations of a very similarly strong green. And I would tell you, push it more towards gray if you want to create more of a sense of depth. You actually have a bit of it here. These best practices can follow or not follow. As long as you maintain that heart that you have here. I really like that. And by the way, I think the photo is really toned down. If I do this or play around with the levels, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but the paper, I can tell by the color of the paper that it's, not a white, so it means the colors of the photo aren't accurate, but that's fine. A little on the cool side maybe, but great job. Richard, hey, you're here. We went over your painting first, so if you want to check that out later. Next up, we have Darlene. So Darlene sent me 3 paintings. I believe you said you're relatively new to watercolor. And I remember, so these 2 are what? Oh, I switched the reference in the photo. Yeah, I did a bit of a mess. Sorry about that. But I believe one of them is not watercolor. This doesn't look like, but maybe I'm mistaken, you know what. But in any case, so we'll look at the bird. And then, what was that? I don't know. And then the squirrel. So I have to commend you again for the colors you use. They're very strong. Like, you're doing strong contrasts. Especially, so my favorite spot in this entire, there are probably 2 favorite spots. I'll show you one. One is this, because of both the colors and the technique. So the way you did this transition here, that's so beautiful. When someone truly experiments with just putting paint on paper, that's what tends to come out of it. And I love that. I love it, and I encourage everyone to do that. So you put a bit of paint, you figure out, okay, can I do wet and wet still? Is it wet enough? I do that. Then I experiment. Then I glaze over it maybe once it dries, and you try it out. And even though the result isn't perfect from a technical standpoint, it still looks really good. And I love that. That's a beautiful mess. Look at these reds here that were put in, probably injected wet and wet. Really good. You can see a bit of it here too. Now the second favorite spot is this, because you do have that strong blue that I really like a lot. Now, one thing I notice is the way you do these shapes is also really nice. So it's almost like thin glazes of details. And you still have them merged together, which is really cool. If I were to give any kind of critique, it would be maybe controlling the focal point. So right now there's a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of sharp, small little details. If you want to balance it out and maybe pull our attention to a specific part, make it shine even more, what you can do is blend this entire thing. So just have it a little looser on the details. One way to show it is, I love doing this. I'll just duplicate this layer. I'll do filter, blur, Gaussian, and we'll just blur it out a bit. Thank you so much, Richard, for the super sticker. Much appreciated. And then we'll delete basically everything we want to be sharp, right? So what this does is it just brings more focus to, let's say maybe here, the focal point, right? The possible focal points. So one thing to have in mind, you have a lot of different means at your disposal to lead the viewer, if that's something you It's okay if not. Can you please remove this layer for me? Or will you not? Can I get rid of this layer? Please disappear. Okay. So yeah. And of course, if we compare it to the... Again, if we're talking just comparison, pure comparison from the reference photo, so obviously the background is darker, which makes the bird pop. So if you want to achieve that same thing, you'll actually have to get this same dark background, which you can do, just don't think you were aiming for that. So don't feel like you need to aim for that, right? But the moment you go dark enough, it's gonna make the bird feel lighter than the background. But that's just, again, if you follow things to the T. I love this. All the blue and red, it's so nice. So that's definitely something I'll be making use. I love this branch. This branch is genius. Keep going. That's the way. The horse is really good too, or is it a donkey? I'm not sure. Really good. I don't have much to say. You just missed some nuances in the fuzziness of the hairs. So there's some lighter sections here compared to, let's do it relative, right? Because it will all be relative to the way you use the value. Go a little lighter here. You can see some patterns that you might have missed. You got them nicely here too. So yeah, just something to have in mind. I do like these colors better than these. Okay, way to go on that. Actually, not too much to say. Really good job. Some of the edges could be improved. So really looking at, and the picture wasn't that great quality to begin with, so I can't see the nuances, unfortunately. But from what I'm seeing, some edges could be controlled a little better. So you can see here, for example, how you have some very soft edges, right? So this is a hard edge, relatively speaking, right? Hard edge, but this is a soft edge. This is a very soft edge, and you hardened some of them, which happens. It's just the nuance, and it's tough because there's a lot of light, shadow, lots of darks. It's not easy, but yeah. And as for the squirrel, same as the bird, I would say. Look at them kind of together. I like the colors you used. Here you did make the background a little darker, which is nice. Nice touch. Makes the squirrel pop. You also broke it down to interesting colors. What I'm missing here personally is just a bit more coolness together with all the warmth. So just putting a gray here could go a long way and look a little cool. Let me show you. Just a little bit of gray looks a little cooler and could balance it out. I don't know where. That's up to you. Maybe around here. Make it lighter, of course. Something like that, just to bring out a bit of the other side of the temperature. And if you go just even a little bit on the actual blue, it will go a long way in feeling cool, you know? So just some things to throw at you. There's actually a bit of it, quite a bit of it going on here. But it's very easy to go like, this is blue, right? This is blue, so I'm going to paint it blue. So you have to pay attention to that. And maybe don't go overboard. Or go overboard, if that's what you're after. But a really good job, Darlene. Wait here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see when it comes back. Blah, blah, blah. Filler. Yeah, okay. Sorry. The internet died for a second. My apologies. Didn't say anything too important, but in any case. So yeah, let's move on to Donna, who sent this lovely painting. Now, Donna, I, once again, don't see too many paintings that look like this, which is always a good sign. And actually, I didn't fix the window properly. So let me make sure we're making the most out of our display and do this. We don't need to see all the tools. We just need to see the paintings. So there we go. Just a better display. So yeah, this is really neat. And it's a great way of, once again, I love when there's richness in temperature. So this is very blue dominant, right? There's a lot of blue here, but there are touches of warmth. Now, the touches of warmth aren't only here in these nice kind of gentle yellows, but also within the shadows, there are things that are relative to the blue look a little warm. If I sample here, you'll notice I'm going near some yellows. You can't see it, but if I take this color, for example, to the extreme, it's a greenish kind of, it has a bit of yellow in it. let's actually, just let me have room. We have more here. When I'm swatching the colors to the right, so you'll see when I'm going this, you see it's around yellow. There are yellows within these shadows, which is a really beautiful thing. So I love that. And there we go. So I love that. I love the technique. It's very unique. Look at all these spills and kind of letting the paint do its thing. This is really nice. One way that you can achieve this, everyone who's watching and you're kind of wondering, is to use a lot of water, and what you're looking for is a bit of movement of water on paper. So what you want is when tilting the paper to actually have movement, to have it move, flow down. And this is what creates these beautiful effects, is actually flow. And you can tilt the paper in all sorts of different directions and direct the flow in different spots. And it's a very fun thing to experiment with. It's a great way to paint your first wash in a way that that tells a fun story, but still you won't ruin the painting because it's just the first wash and you can paint over it. So excellent piece of art, Donna. I really like this. I don't know if you're here, but really nice. And I spelled your name the way you did, like Don and A in the end. So yeah, Deborah likes it a lot. Pat loves this one. Hey Pablo, how are you doing? It's been a while, I think. Phone battery is at 10%. Pray for me. Yeah, definitely. Make sure you have enough battery if you need it for other stuff. So yeah, this is great. This is actually excellent. I love this painting. I love it. Again, it's something I don't see every day. So I really appreciate it. Even like, look at this thing here. Can we appreciate this pigeon? How realistic it looks. It almost looks like you cropped it out of a magazine and put it in with a filter. Which is funny because some people do that, but it doesn't look like that really. It looks really, really good. So I love that. Same with the birds here. You know, you seem to have some unique approach to the way you paint, which I greatly appreciate. So, you know, sometimes you'll see 1, 2, 3 birds, and I do that a lot. But no, you went for a whole like horde of them. It looks a bit like seagulls, but that's just because of how the paint dries darker near the edge of your line, which is a funny effect. So you put a line in, and then because of the nature of watercolor, this side dries a little darker. So it looks like a seagull with the black at the edge of the wings. This just works. This is great. Continue developing it. I'm curious to see where it goes when you continue developing this approach. Way to go. Yeah, the pigeons are great. The pigeons are wonderful. I agree. So next up, we have Eric. Okay. Maybe we'll have some time to add some of the paintings I didn't show here. So really nice work. Let's start with this one. Again, very accurate drawing. I don't know if it was traced, drawn from observation, but good. Your perspective is good. Everything is on point. The values could go darker. That's a very common thing people kind of miss. And it does seem like you're aiming for some accuracy in the values. So just to demonstrate this, and you've probably seen this. You probably yourself have seen this a lot, but sometimes it's just easy to forget. So, right, so everything here a little darker. Everything here in the middle could be dark for starters. And look at how as we darken it, and it's actually the easiest thing to demo, so I'll just go for it. As we darken it, it just starts to get a little more of a sense of volume to it. Like it looks a little more. You see, you got the shadow here, but it actually goes down much lower. It casts down, right? Hopefully you can see this. Same here, this bottom, entire bottom. Sorry, I know it's a bit split, but hopefully you can see everything. This. The one on the right, I know it's hard. I don't see it fully too. It's not just you. See, I'm alternating. But yeah, you see, just this is dark, right? This entire thing is very, very dark. And then the ground, also the same. Now, the ground being dark is what's gonna make the white of this lovely structure look better. Look a little lighter. Even this is a little dark, honestly. But you see how it just gets a bit more volume to it? That's it. You're just missing the darks. Pretty much the same true for the pomegranate. Um, it is a little more nuanced than that, of course, because there's a lot of details within the shadows. And again, it's up to you to decide what to interpret, what to show, and all of that. Yeah, must paint. The photo doesn't have, it's overcast. There's no sun out, and it makes it actually harder to paint. I find these scenes a bit harder. Now, the way I love to paint these scenes sometimes is just as one wash. So I'll start from the top, and I'll just use that. I'm gonna demo it. It won't mean much, but I just want to show you it's fun. I showed this to you in one of the one video where I showed the technique from top to bottom of painting a building. So I like to just paint this shape, and then as I get to here, I'll grab the darker paint, and everything alla prima, just let it blend. This, and then I'll go with that lighter kind of brown and put that in, and everything will blend together. I love painting this way. And then this wall here, right? Go a little darker, but this I'm gonna just use water to move this paint down so it'll stay light. I love painting this kind of alla prima style with these kinds of scenes. So maybe give it a go. Maybe you'll enjoy it. For this one, so it irks me sometimes when there's just one red and one green. I love when there is some variety to it. The way you do it is to mix your own colors and play around with how much yellow and how much blue there is, for example, into green. How much yellow and blue there is in the red, right? Makes the shapes a little more, the colors a little more interesting. And you're also missing some darks, so I would probably darken the shadow here a little more. So it's a kind of a recurring thing, right? Don't be scared to darken. Go dark. Sometimes it's just necessary, okay? I hope that makes sense. Jacqueline, I love the computer graphics used to correct the paintings. That would be helpful to use for practicing the sketching and coloring, definitely. Ideally it would be to demonstrate this with watercolor, but this is much easier because I can overlay it on top of what you've done. So yeah, maybe we'll do one session where I show on the table the techniques and everything. But yeah, this is the easiest way to demonstrate real fast, what corrections and fixes I'll do. By the way, it's interesting. If you look at this, for example, look at I'm playing around with the visibility of the shadow layer. See? When you start here, it looks almost like there's quite a lot of sun. And then as the sun sets, it's almost like the shadows become a little more contrasty. So it's just a nice little effect. Chris, indeed, how to submit paintings, email me. It's Liron at Lironian. I have it here somewhere. I should. But in case, yeah, it's Liron at Lironian. Maybe I'll have it here. And what screen do I have my email? I don't remember. Liron at Lironian.com. I'll write it in. You can email me there, and I'll see them, and hopefully I'll get them the next time. Looks like a botanical illustration, yes. Botanicals tend to kind of simplify the colors a bit and worry less about the artsy, fartsy stuff. It's taken me a year not to be afraid of using darks. I get it. Yep, same here. Let's see if I missed anything interesting. Joshua, is it better to paint shadows cool and light, colors more warm? Not necessarily, because we've seen in Alfie's painting how the shadows have a strong blue and orange to them. So there are no rules to that, actually. It's more about what you see when you look at it, what it makes you feel, and what you want to make the viewer feel. You want them to maybe notice the warmth, instead of the coolness. Really depends on that. I'm not the Donna who painted this. Yeah, I know Donna. The other Donna is a Donna. But yeah. You got it, Chris. Yeah, email me. And if you can send me both the reference photo and the painting, that would be great. And if you can send them in one photo side by side, that would be even better. Jacqueline, oh, and I tried the technique you told me to use the last time about painting a flat blue sky without clouds. Turned out great. I'll have to send you a pic. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I do see like big improvement between submissions. So now we have one from Hannah. And so this one, so I feel like most of these I managed to get a good look of. Now this one, it's the first time I really get a look at it. This one's really nice, really interesting. So I love Love the way you did the trees here. This is so neat because you can really see, especially like here. What is it that we see here? Is it a blue, a reddish, and a yellow? Is it, dare I say, it's all primary colors in a skewed kind of neutral. You want to see the new crybaby? Can you hear? Let me wait a minute. She's always, don't worry, she's not crying, she's just excited. I'm gonna let you go. She's so always excited, so she cries. It's so funny and sad. But yeah, Ruth is not nice. How are you? Oh. Okay, Ruth. Okay, back to the chat. There we go. Yeah, it's a little pincher. Once she calms down, she'll be a little quieter. So back to Hannah's painting. Yeah, it's precious. Yep. So I like this a lot. If I haven't said that enough, all sorts of interesting grays, interesting nuances. You know what's interesting, Hannah? The thing that breaks the color harmony for me here is actually these reds. Now, I'm not sure if I'm imagining things, but the kind of red I see here is a bit more towards the purpley side. I don't know why. This feels more like, maybe not as strong as this. Maybe something like that. I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong. It just feels like to me that red is a little more accurate to the colors you've been using. However, it doesn't mean, like, if you show me the photo, it could be the exact red you used, right? More rusty red. But I love that. It's just beautiful, beautiful. One thing to consider is you could even have a stronger lead in, honestly. You don't have to. Just have something to pull us into the scene. I actually like that you left the front a little empty, because then it really forces you to skip all of that and just get to the house, to the houses, to the trees. Just wonderful. Wonderful. Actually, you don't have too much in form of critique. The trees are beautiful too. Sky's very gentle. I love those touches again, warm, cool. These are very, very nice. Actually, I want to know what blue this is, because it looks really, really nice. So let me know if anyone knows. It's kind of a cerulean-ish. I feel like I always am missing this blue. It's a very strong, nice kind of blue. But good job. Really good job. I like this. I don't have too much to say. My apologies. It's just really nice. So now we have Harsh. I don't remember if you're here in the chat, but you're here quite a lot. Harsh Agrawal, thank you so much for sending me this one. Great, great job. Very interesting. So, plein air, which is always good, and you can even get a glimpse of the entire scene and a piece of paper. I like it a lot, and I have been thinking a lot about this one while editing the photos. Here's an interesting thought. There are a lot of things, for example, about this building right here and this building right here that I absolutely love. It's some of my favorite parts of the painting. The reason is there's something to the way you put them that is not that literal. Now, it's not like these buildings are extremely literal. There is a lot of looseness to them, but sometimes even within the looseness, we tend to get into a pattern of maybe feeling like we have to put in every single window or every small detail, and something about this is really magical. I would see how I can bring more of this into that, maybe just a bit. The colors are really nice. I love that it's like mostly gray, and then there's a bit of yellow, a bit of red. That looks really good. Again, this, like, I love this looseness here. I appreciate it even more sometimes from the fully more detailed sections. So like really, really good job. Now let me try something here. I want to go a little black and white here. Yeah, so I had a feeling something was bugging me. It's not really that big of a deal, but I feel like some of the water's darkness could go a little higher. So you take this same kind of mid value and just continue it a little more up, just a bit, not too much, to give the water a bit more volume. And then you have the lightest water around these areas here. Just a thought. When I turned it black and white, it kind of made more sense to me. It almost looks like you're missing a wash here, almost. So if and we can even do this, like, I like the color you use here. Let's go for a neutral gray so that we don't break the warmth underneath it. But then let me try something. Okay, let's try going a little darker. Just a little bit. It gives the water a little more presence. I don't know if it's just me. It's not something you have to do, obviously, but I feel like just a little more presence. You could also translate it to a shadow under the building, right? So maybe something like this, just to show that you're having in mind the reflections from above, right? And maybe get it to be a little darker. Right, but just a suggestion, because I'll tell you why it bugged me. And if we make this disappear completely, this is very, very dark, and then bam, it's very light. So sometimes it feels like almost a wash is missing. Now I would probably be tempted to paint a thin blue wash over this, which won't be a good idea actually. So don't listen to me. That's wrong. Don't listen to me, but that's what I would do. I don't know why, but that to me looks a little more balanced in terms of values as well. I may be wrong. Now, how fascinating it is to take a photo, and in the photo it looks very different. And I believe you told me that the light and shadow conditions really changed while you were painting. So you probably started earlier, then the sun went a little lower, these sparkly bits on the water started showing up, and at this point, it's everything changed around you. So really good job, and you can tell like you finished it. It was really late. I like that a lot. You get the shadow of this building really nicely. Honestly, this is a lot better than many of my plein airs. I'm having a lot of trouble with plein airs. Just always have. I love them, and I think it's still some of my best results. But still, I have a lot of trouble with them. So great job. Really good job. Hi Liron, where can I send you my paintings? I sent the email earlier. I'll send it again. And email them, my friend, to here. There we go. Amy, I have so much to learn even after almost 3 years with watercolor. Yeah, definitely. I've been at it for like 7 years now. A lot to learn. Just gorgeous. I could get lost in this wonderful painting indeed. It's related to building, but I really want to know difference. Oh, sorry. What is the difference between exterior and interior drawings? So yeah, a few differences. Perspective will work differently. So when you're looking at, I'm going to use the sky to demonstrate. It's a good question. There are a lot of differences actually. So when you are looking at an exterior, maybe it's a big view like this. So you have buildings, right? The building is just that kind of a skyline. Now, the closer you are to the building, the more of perspective will matter, and the more you'll want to capture its more accurate kind of shapes, right? When you're inside the cube, you're inside the box. So what you'll see is something like this, like the inside of a room, right? So that would be the inside of a room, maybe furnitures and a bunch of details within the room, table, whatever, lamp, all of these things. So in terms of drawing, you're inside the cube, and perspective becomes a little more important, right? Now you may look at a room up front, like sometimes they'll show, back here. So you may look at a room straight ahead like this, kind of 1-point perspective. So maybe you're in the living room, and then there's the sofa, again here, like that, right? That's another way of looking at it. Where again, from the outside, you'll usually not be as concerned with these details. You'll be more concerned with the overall shape of the building. Now, there's another big difference between exterior and interior, okay? Outside, the light is outside with you, and it's lighting on these boxes we call buildings. There is a bunch of boxes we like to call buildings, and the sun shines on them and casts shadows, right? What happens when you're inside? When you're inside, usually in the room where you're at, there are windows. And so light tends to come from the windows that are outside. So where here you'd get a light and shadow pattern that maybe looks something like this, right? And maybe this will be kind of a mid value. No. Here, you get a light and shadow pattern that's vastly different. What you'll get instead is more like everything is dark and the light comes from the windows. Make my brush smaller. And the light comes from the windows. So the pattern is very different. Maybe you have sharp light coming into the room, right? So you'll get something like this, right? Sorry, it will probably be like this, right? Casting from the window. That's the main difference. That is a big difference between the two. The light and shadow. Outside, we're outside with the light. Inside, the light comes from the outside and pours through the windows. Oh, Mark, thank you so much. You are always the best when it comes to reminding people to like this, so I really appreciate it. If you can drop a like, I would really appreciate it. That helps more people find the live stream, even after it ends. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Harsh, thank you so much for submitting this. Hillel. Hillel, my friend. Hillel means in Hebrew, praised. He praised someone. She praised someone. Or something. It's a beautiful name. Now, I don't think I've seen you here, Hillel. And I know you're a better Hebrew speaker than English speaker, so let me know. I can send you a voice message and give you my critiques more privately. But you've done a really good job here. One thing I love about this reference photo in particular is that it's just a great way to study, because the colors are simple, right? It's just like a weird, awkward, reddish, greenish, and black, which isn't really a black, it's more of a gray. That makes things a lot easier. That makes things a lot easier to focus on the values and on what matters, and you've done a fine job at that. You actually missed or lost some of the saturation, which is common. It happens to me all the time. But the color here, you see, it's just stronger, whereas yours got a little more neutralized. You mix a very close color, close in terms of the hue, right? The color itself, it's the same green. You got it just a little bit muted, okay? Just pay attention to that, even though the main thing here is the values, and you've done a fantastic job. Couple of things you could improve. First off, it looks to me like you painted this black. I know it looks a little gray in the photo, but it looks like you were aiming for a black. Now, have in mind that this is probably more of a gray, okay? It's not as black as one would think. So sometimes you need to temper the tendency to go very dark, okay? It gives it some richness, because not black, you can almost imagine seeing some details in it, right? That's one thing. Now, another thing that I think could make this much, much more interesting, and I find this part very interesting, and nice job on getting these, like, these are really nice. Is it like a spider upside down edited photo? This here is magic. I love all of these small highlights, and I think that's one of the things that makes the scene really, really nice. When you get these sharp patterns of light within the shadow, And that's something you kind of missed. You just didn't put the dark. So I could use the same kind of colors you've used here. But if you just leave a bit of these highlights showing, and maybe make them as kind of bright as they are here, see? That creates a very nice play of light and shadow. Okay? So just one more thing to pay attention to. To me, I look at these shapes and I think to myself, wow, these are very interesting. So I want to show them. Maybe you don't think that way, and that is perfectly fine. But if you are, notice it, because that's a big thing not to miss. Now, other than that, you have great technique. You use the colors here very nicely. There's very nice flow. It looks really good. It looks really, really good. I love these washes here. This is really nice. Sorry, I'm going to shut my lens. Just check something. Sorry. We'll continue in just a second. So yeah, I love these spider legs. You've done a good job. When you commit to a wash, you do a really good job with it. So way to go. Way to go, Hillel. We will praise you. Really good job. So let's continue to Ibby Zonic, which is a very interesting painting, this one. So this is the reference, and this is the painting. Now, obviously, you changed so much about it. Now, I actually feel like if I were to paint using opaque mediums, which this looks like, so either acrylics or oils, that's what I would get exactly. Now, I honestly, I'm not sure how to critique this, because you obviously changed a lot, and I think a lot of it is intentional. Now, let me see if you wrote something that I missed, because I remember most of the emails I read kind of vaguely. Second. Just want to confirm. I don't think... Yeah, okay, you didn't write too much. So yeah, so great. You changed a bunch of stuff. I actually wouldn't change a thing, you know? I don't know what to say. I wouldn't change a thing. I actually like it a lot. I will tell you something interesting, though. I think yours is better when it comes to the colors. And let me explain why, because this is fascinating. So when you look at the original one, and you know, earlier it was asked in the chat how to darken a color without changing the color itself, right? Without changing the hue. Now, this is probably intentional, but what you see here is a painting where all the colors are the same color, just different hues. So this is white, of course, that's okay. The original one I'm talking about. And then we have this light blue, and then we have this dark blue, and then we have this darker blue, and then we have this darker blue, and then we have this black. Okay? This is what's called tonal shading. You're using the same, different tones of the same color. Don't get confused with the terminology, and I may be mistaken. It's the same color. This is all the same color. Okay? Very close. Now, what you did was actually introduce different colors. So this purple tells me you introduced, in theory, a red, right? Maybe it's a pre-mixed purple, but still. You don't have just this blue. You have a red here. You have, look at this. This is almost a turquoise. This feels like there's yellow in it. This gray is neutral, so there has to be a bit of warmth in it. So to me, the colors you used are actually more interesting. I don't want to say better, but more interesting. The interpretation of the waves is really cool. Again, this isn't my style, so it's very hard for me to critique something that's a little more free when it comes to, you know, more artistic liberties. But I love it. I think you did a great job here. And I really like how this is not tonally shaded. It's actually different colors. This purple, just a bit of it is magic. This gray, just a bit of it. Just a bit of it is magic, right? I sometimes don't like just purely same color, different values work. So, just to let you know, I like it a lot. But yep, good job. You obviously reinterpreted everything. One thing that I think you could maybe learn from the original is how they contrasted the white in the background with all of the masts and details. And this creates a nice effect where you see through them, right? So something to have in mind. Maybe if you do this light, sorry, And then you go over with the darks over it. You can create some very interesting shapes with the matte and everything else. But yeah, just something to have in mind. I personally think you did a fine job here. Next up, so Kuntal, we went over. Lisa. Okay, Lisa. Lisa sent quite a few, and then we'll see if I have the strength to do more, and if not, we'll stop. These are the ones that I have prepared for today. Don't worry, I have everything else saved. We'll go over everything. Must paint. I turned 19 on 25th this month. Well, happy you turn. I guess you will turn, right? Well, happy soon-to-be birthday. Yeah. Hey, Dazzling, how are you doing? Difference between we talked about that. Turn mine into non-profit, selling art to raise funds for worldwide non-profit. Oh, that's cool. That's a great idea. Okay, let's continue. So, Lisa, you've done a very interesting job here. So let me start actually with the middle one. Now, I didn't have enough time to edit the photos in terms of light and shadow, so I'm going to do it now because this is important. Image adjustment, exposure. We need more exposure on this. I don't want to overexpose it, but it was definitely too dark here. Okay, this is wonderful. So you mentioned, I believe, that these two are gouache, and then you said here just the flowers are gouache and the rest is watercolor. So first off, very realistic, right? You can tell, and if we zoom out a bit, you can really tell that top and bottom similar. So great technique. Now I love the way you approached always notice the most obscure things. I love the way you approach these rocks here. Look at that. Cool, warm, everything together. And when you look at this, it's not as obvious, right? So you get a bit of this kind of a warm, that kind of a warm. It's pretty much same kind of color. I highly appreciate when people introduce tools to where it's just warm and vice versa. I like that a lot. I see quite a few artists on Facebook that don't do it, and it always leaves something to be desired in their work for me personally. And it just makes it so much more interesting to include these colors. Just think if we take this color and just go darker and just use even warmer, right? Just the same kind of color. It just adds so much when there's this purple, violet, right? And then kind of yellow and this blue and even a bit of violet within. It just looks so good to me. I absolutely love it. Same on the shirt. I think on the shirt, actually, you could even use more of that. But overall, really, really nice. Some of the shadows could be darker. That's okay. Really hard to give a very harsh critique of this one. It's so darn good. I love that. Same here, like you used so many colors. Just way to go. This is perfect to me. I love that. One thing you could maybe improve is just adding a bit more nuance to the backpack. So like going a little lighter, maybe. I do see a bit of blue there. Just adding a bit of nuance to it. Even darker, even bluer. See here, you can kind of see some of the side. I would even say that this isn't really black, but more of a very dark gray. And that adds a bit of, you see, a bit more depth to it, right? Whereas without it, hopefully the difference is showing just a bit more interest. But that's really nitpicking because this is wonderful. I would say same for this one. Very challenging techniques there in the sky. I like how you approach this cloud. This is a really interesting one too. So when you look at this kind of a reference photo, and sorry, the photo wasn't high quality to begin with. It's not my editing. When you look at this photo, there's a lot of complexity in the sky, right? And I really appreciate the effort you did to include all the details while not worrying too much about maybe messing up some of the technique. I really appreciate seeing that. And I love seeing that. So great job on that. You see all of these little small nuanced details here. Like, that's so nice. I love that. One trick you can try, everyone, not just Lisa. If you are having trouble with skies, try painting them larger. Like, grab a really big half a sheet piece and don't try to connect everything. Just work in sections. You'll be surprised at how good it looks from afar because you you can work very zoomed in and get the details very nicely. So you've done great with a very challenging subject, I think. One thing that it's a mistake that everyone does, think horizontal. It's a relatively low angle. See where the horizon is? Horizon's low. Sky, we see most of that. That tells me we're looking at it from a lower vantage point. Now, you brought the horizon a little up here. Maybe it should be a little lower. And you made everything stretch with it. So even this line here, it's not committing to being horizontal, right? This here, this entire pattern, look at the way it's portrayed here as opposed to here. See what I mean? It's a tendency. We all have it. Look at even the way you did the pattern on the water. See? It's okay if you decided to bring up the horizon. That's actually fine. But the way you painted the birds, almost it looks from above, but then the rest, it looks from below, sorry, and the rest looks from above. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. It's very nuanced. It's not an easy thing to get right. So just keep at it. You'll get there, I'm sure. As for the last one, fantastic. Like I really like this. This is a tough one. It's gouache, and I don't use gouache again, so I can't tell too much. Of course, it's mostly watercolor from what you said. Honestly, I'd be interested in how you got these, all of these small details. Is it with gouache on top of watercolor? Because this is fantastic. I love that a lot. Let's zoom out a bit. This is a great place to be in. After practicing everyone for a while consistently, you'll find yourself at this spot where what you're producing looks really, really good, and you can build up from there. One more thing I appreciate about the middle one is look how dark the water is, and you weren't tempted. You kept it light. You kept this contrast very gentle. I prefer it that way. This is just generally speaking. This one is a top pick for me. Absolutely love it. I think you did a really good job here. Way to go. Let's reach some chats, and I think then we'll get... Oh, Lisa, you're here. Great. The beach scene is all watercolor. Okay, yes. I had a confusion. On the puppies, they are only gouache. Okay, I got it. Yes, thank you. So happy you're here. So I hope that makes sense, Lisa. Let me know, and I'll manage to read it now. Amy, I saw somebody paint skies in rectangle sections with the biggest at the top of the page and the smallest nearest the horizon. Yep. That's... Lisa, that's a great tip, Liron, about the perspective on the beach. Yes, very important. Oh yeah, I know you. Wait. I have a painting. Are you Eric, baby? Thank you very much for reviewing my pomegranate building. Oh yeah, okay. I read your username and I'm like, that's Eric, right? And then I saw, yeah, very happy to review it. You did a fine job. Just push the darks more and you're good. People like those paintings, Lisa. No. Nice interpretation of the shapes. It works beautifully, indeed. Yeah, these are excellent. Way to go. So yeah, once you get to this point, it's just going further and further and farther. One thing, I'm big on lately encouraging you to do is always find the thing that interests you and the thing that you notice. That's the most important thing. Right? There are no external rules. There's just what you make and what you decide to put an emphasis on. What you see that you transfer onto your viewer. That's what matters. The rest is, really insignificant. That's what makes painting much more fun, more enjoyable, more addictive. Lisa, thank you so much. My hands are trembling. Happy to hear. That means you're soaking up the feedback and you'll do great. By the way, one thing I figured now with the birds, the reason they look a little from above is the distance, right? This bird here, if I even just move it, let's move it a little bit closer to the rest, like so, and you see how it makes it look a little from a lower angle, right? See, all of them are pretty much lined up, all ducks in a row, and here you kind of broke the formation a bit. But yeah, that's this small note. You're doing really well. I love these critiques. So good of you to take time and make it part of your broadcast. Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I've been so slow to respond to messages, emails, everything. This is like the best way for me to communicate. It's much more effective and direct. I actually enjoy it much more. I'll probably do some spontaneous live streams next week. Eric, I do struggle with pumping up the darks. I don't have an art education, so I'm learning color theory as I go. Yeah, one of the things that work for me is a few times you exaggerate, you go over correction, and you go real crazy on the darks, then you'll find your balance. Pat, wonderfully run. Learned so much from these critiques. Thank you for the time you take. Yeah, my pleasure. Next time, maybe next week or the one after that. The one after that, there's a different plan, but maybe next, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check for a second the calendar. Yeah. So maybe next week, not the week after. The week after we probably have a plan. So maybe next week we'll do the rest of these. And if you send anything in between, I'll try, of course, adding that in. We're plowing through these just because there's a lot of people want their paintings critiqued. So we have to be a little patient. Now, if I missed your email a few times and it's been a few sessions and I haven't, let me know. Tell me, hey, Liron, I said this a few times and you missed it, and I will try and speedline it, get it to the top and show it sooner. And my apologies if that happened. But yeah, I think it's a good time to wrap it up. I will say, if anyone's interested in reading my manga, I will send you the link once again. You can find it here. Read it. Enjoy it. Hopefully I did a good job. It's a very short story. It's like a 10 minutes read maximum. But I do want to thank everyone who was so courageous to send us paintings in. I really do appreciate it. And the people we showed today are, let me just go over it real quick. We've had Richard, we had Alfie, Andrew, Christine. We had 2 Christine, Darlene, Donna, Eric, Hannah, Harsh, Hillel, Ibby, Zonic, Kuntal, and Lisa. Thank you so much for sending me these, and let me find the ones. Some of the ones I'll show next critique session that I have here. I have more of Alfie. I have Erica. I have more of Kuntal, I believe. Yes, another one. Lisa, Liz. Both Lisa and Lisa. Liz, Marco, Mayor, Pat. I have yours next week. My apologies. You've done a great job. These are wonderful, by the way. The portraits really, really good. Shelly and Zach. So these will be what I have so far for next week. Send them over. Feel free to. If you're seeing a message that it wasn't sent because my inbox is full, I'll fix that. Don't worry. It's just been... I got a lot of emails there. So yeah. Let's see what else. Deborah, well done. All great job and very courageous. I need to get my courage up. Yeah, definitely. I should do a live stream, like a critique live stream, where I barely market it. I barely, send. I don't do a story, don't do anything, like a kind of hush, quiet one, and then ask everyone who's shy to send them over, and we'll be like 20 people here, and that's it. So yeah, that could be fun. Thank you, Jacqueline, for being here. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much, Must Paint. Deborah, thank you again. Barbara, definitely try this. Thank you, Nancy, and thank you. Thank you if you're gonna check it out. Much appreciated. If you're gonna get a thumbs up, thank you, John. Thank you, Lisa, again for the submission. We'll talk to you again next week, and probably there will be a live stream before that one. So happy you found this one helpful, Amy. Yeah, we'll do a secret live stream. That'll be funny. Kuntal, yes, feel free to, and I'll add it to the last one there is. But I guess, yeah. Take care, everyone. We will talk soon. And yeah, keep painting. Keep making it. It's fun. It's a gift. It's really a gift. We'll talk soon.